Okay, so what I need to do is find out exactly what problems you're having. I'm going to share my screen
Yes, ma'am.
so we can see both the PowerPoint presentation and the assignment side by side.
Okay.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when we're doing our PowerPoint presentation and we're doing the assignment, so the PowerPoint presentation was based on the accounting cycle, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the steps are basically the tabs here. So the first part, when it's talking about analyzing our transactions, that's just us looking at the April entries to figure out what we need to do. Then we have our chart of accounts. So these are the only accounts that we should be using when we're doing our journal entries. Then the next step is to do the journal entries. So I provided an explanation as to how it's supposed to be done. So we would look at the first, like if we look at the first transaction, so we have Jim's invested 100,000 in cash and 50 in equipment. So we would go here and do our journal entry. Let me see. Did I do that? Okay. So when we're doing this, we have to make sure first that our financial statements always have the proper header. So it's going to have the name of the company. It's going to have the name of the financial statement. In this case, it's the general journal. And then it's going to have the date. Here, now we have to record our transactions. So we'll make sure we put the date of the transaction. Then we get the account number. So for this transaction, we know it's going to be cash and we know it's going to be equipment, right?
Yes.
With most of you all, like during the live chat, I mentioned, if we look at the equity part, we only have common stock, retained earnings, and dividends. Usually when you invest in a company, they give you stock back. So because there is no capital count, that's the account we're going to use for this particular transaction. So we'll have 101 for our cash. Now, if this changed to a date for you, all you have to do is highlight this, and then we go to our format and we change it to number. And that's what I was explaining in class also, because some of the columns came over as dates. So to finish the transaction, put the name of the account. Oops, that can't go too far. My mistake. You put the amount.
They are without comparison the best diapers I've ever used. My son started sleeping 10 hours the day we put coterie on him. Enjoy your peaceful night's sleep, Annalise. Remember, Dad, you've got.
And this is where I was telling some of you all that I actually copy and paste because I hate typing. What I do sometimes, I just go to the chart of accounts and I'd have done this. I copy and paste this.
You can cut your car insurance bill in half. Scroll through dozens of prices and tap to switch online. That's it. No phone calls, no wasted time. Go to Insurify and save today.
Some days it say Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday.
And we know we're going to use the common stock, right?
Five, B-side.
Just in for summer break.
And then we have to put our journal description, and we can just call it Jim's investment or whatever you want to call it to let me know what this transaction was for. I really need to put my glasses on. So this is what you would do for all of these transactions, A through I. So once we finish creating our journals, the next step in our cycle is to post them to our general ledger. And the same way they have the T account set up right here, we would do the same thing here. So for each one of these blue things, that's where you're going to put the account number. So you would do 101 in class. What I asked for people to do also was to put the posting date and call them A and D. So that way it'll give you a date where you can post your transactions in. So you usually put this in the same numerical order that this is in. So that's a merge. The only reason I don't do it here is because these are merged sales. So you would actually have to click in the top here and then paste it.
Okay.
So that's the biggest problem, trying to copy and paste from the chart of accounts to this. Because if I just took and did that, it would just come apart. So when I hit the paste, it will still show, and that's fine with me. It doesn't make me a difference as long as it's there. So you can actually do the same thing with this to set up all of your chart of accounts. And again, because I hate typing, is just copy and paste all of your account names on the blue tabs. There's 20 of them. So you would make sure every one of these had the account number and the account name. So then when we're ready to start recording our journals, we would look at our journal entry tab. We know we have a transaction for cash, we have one for equipment, and we have one for common stock. And the date was the first. So when we go to our general ledger for cash, we would do 0104, 0401, sorry. And since we received the cash in, that's a debit. The transactions that I put in our resource area, one of them was based on account balance types. And it'll say, I think it's called normal balance. I have it. So under the books and resource area, adjusting entries, accounting basics. Yeah, there's one called accounting basics that'll tell you how to, what type of accounts have what type of balances. I had one in there that said posting from journal to the general ledger. That'll also show you, let me see if I open it and you can see it on the screen. Still on screen 3. So this is another written walkthrough of how you could do your journal postings. So this was the transaction. So a company sold goods to a customer. So the journal entry looked like this.
Okay.
It was cash in their sales, and they got their debits and credits. Then when they came to do it to their general ledger, you see it's a step by step. It shows you that we would debit cash.
Yes.
First, in our general journal, we debited cash and then we would credit sale. So the way we post to our general ledger is the same way we created the journal entry. If we did a debit entry, we debit our T account. If you do your credit, then you credit your account. So that's how this explanation went. It was showing you how to take your general journal and put it into your general ledger. And the same way like this, we have our T accounts. The only extra thing I provided for you all, and I'll show you too, just in case, um, and I'll text it to you if you don't have it, is I put the balance, I put a formula here so that when you start putting stuff in, your balance would automatically calculate. So your bottom line would be your ending balance.
Miss Cuddle more than I thought.
And I miss you.
And for accounts that had normal side debit accounts,
Wow, that kiss was even more tender
my
than the
formula, we did a
It's our ability to give tender
sum.
that separates us from the lower life force SpongeBob.
So we would sum the debit side, and then we would track the sum
We do
of the credit side.
friends. They are gonna love
I already love them.
And what this does is it helps you all see what your balance is at all times. So if we had another transaction, say we spent cash for $1,200. I don't know what date it is, but I know one of them we did cash for $1,200. So when we reduced the cash, we would credit it. And if you notice, the balance automatically changed.
Yes.
So this is what I did for all of the accounts. So we would use this same formula if it was a credit balance, but we would switch the two. So let me see. So one, two. Let me see how many I have to go down. Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7th account. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is where the liabilities are going to start right here. It's the 7th account down. So if I started this, liabilities have a credit side balance. So what I would do on this one is I would start my formula on this side, so the equal sum, and I would sum my credit side first, and then subtract the sum of the debits. So if I had a transaction and I use my accounts payable to increase your credits, of course, we put that on the credit side. And then if I finally paid a payable, if we had a transaction that said we cleared our accounts payable account with cash, then we would have done this to clear the account. So to reduce our credit balance accounts, we debit them. So that's how this particular page would work. So first,
I was so excited to introduce you to my friends, but now they're all acting strange.
I hate to see you so upset, SpongeBob.
we're going to record all of our journals, A through I,
Unlike you,
on the journal tab.
Okay.
Then we're going to post this information to their prospective accounts, the exact way that we see it. So if we debit it in the journal account, you're going to put it on the debit side when you get to your general ledger. If it's credit, you're going to put it on the credit side. The next step is setting up what we call an unadjusted trial balance. That's the very first trial balance we run after we've made sure we recorded everything to our general ledger. So now we're doing this in preparing of our financial statements. But we have to verify before we do our financial statements that the information, we recorded everything that we were supposed to record. So this is first checks and balance. So this would be this particular document. Again, we have to make sure you put the proper header on. And then this is where I was telling you in class, you can cheat and copy this whole thing into your trial balance. Because again, I don't like typing. So I just automatically paste everything in there from the beginning. So that way I never have to worry about if I got all my accounts in there or not. And then what you would just do is go to your general ledger and record all the ending balances. So if this was a debit ending balance, I would put it on the debit side.
Okay.
If it was a credit balance for some reason, then I would record that amount under the credit side.
Okay.
And you're going to do that for every account that has a balance. You're going to move that account, that balance, to your first balance sheet. And we're going to make sure when we're finished, this has to balance. You there, Miss Brianna?
Yes.
Okay. It went silent. That's why I wanted to check.
Hello.
So once you get this and it balances out, now you're ready to go look at the adjusting entries. Sometimes at the end of the month, when we're trying to close our period, there's extra entries we have to do. We have to allocate our prepaids. We have to take into account what our supply ending balance is. We have to record some of our depreciation. There's various types of adjusting entries we have to make. Did I put that one in there? No, I didn't. So the next step would be to review our work to make sure we have everything in. And then this is where we're going to decide what type of adjusting entries we have to make. So for our assignment, we put the adjusting entries right here on the top. The one that throws everyone off, and I'm not sure if I went over this in class or not, is our expired insurance for the month of April. So in the beginning, we did a $1,200 prepayment for our insurance. So this is where we would make the assumption that if we paid $1,200 for the year, and we have to account for only the April's portion. So 1,200 divided by 12. So our monthly adjustment entry for our prepaid insurance is going to be $100.
Okay.
And in that case, we're going to do the same thing. Make sure we have our proper header. We're going to put the date, and all of our adjusting entries have the date of April 30th. Make a difference because it's going to put in there what it wants anyway. Again, highlight this to change it to, this one's a date too. Just change it to general number. Even if you don't change it, that's fine. I know that column messes up and a lot of people just left it.
Okay.
So again, I know I'm using my expired. Go to the chart of accounts. I am going to debit my insurance expense. And since I'm reducing that prepayment, I'm going to credit my prepaid insurance. And I'll show you what that effect would look like in the general ledger also. So in the general ledger, which line is the 1, 2, 3 down from cash? 1, 3. So this is our prepaid insurance. The first entry, we purchased it. So we increased our prepaid. So on the second, you would have a debit of $1,200 for a prepaid. And again, I'll put this formula in the chat so you can keep it
Okay.
in case you're not getting it just from right here. Okay?
Okay.
Because I shared it in the live chat too, but some people didn't look at the chat notes. So on the 30th now, I'm doing my adjusting entry. So you see now how it changed. The reason why my colors here change is because I actually changed the color of my journal entry so I'll know that I've made them all. Because first we have to do our standard journal entries, which is transactions on the April transaction tab. We have adjusting entries that we have to make, and we also have closing entries that we have to make. So for me to say, on my general ledger, even at work, I color code my journal entry so I can make sure all of my entries were recorded.
Okay.
So after you've created all of your adjusting entries, you have to go back and post each one of these, and there's 5 of them. You're going to post them back to the general ledger, and you're going to get new balances for some of the accounts, but not all of the accounts.
Okay.
Okay? So, yes. I'm just trying to think if there was any other extra notes I mentioned in the live chat, but I don't think it was for this particular one. So once we do this, we post them back to our general ledger. Now we're going to use the adjusted trial balance tab. Again, proper header, because you will lose points. The reason why I keep saying it, because you will lose points if you don't put that there.
Okay.
So make sure you put the name of the company, the date, and whatever this, you can leave the name because the name is already going to be there. You just have to add the date and the name.
Okay.
So again, on all our trial balances, copy and paste the accounts in there. That's one less thing you have to worry about. If you use them, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Not all accounts are going to have information, but at least you know you have all your accounts on there.
Yes, ma'am.
So again, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the general ledger because now we have new balances. And we'll record whatever the ending balance is again on the adjusted trial balance. Now, what normal companies will tell you is once we create an adjusted trial balance, this is what they actually create their financial statements off of. Because your adjusted trial balance will have your final finished numbers. You can end up running your adjusting entries and adjusted trial balance numerous times until you make sure all of your entries are recorded for that month before you close your month. So that process can happen numerous times.
Okay.
We move on to our income statement. And if you see, well, yours doesn't have this because this is the new version. Yours is going to be blank. Your column A is going to be blank, but it's supposed to have the account numbers in it. We found out in the live chat that they didn't put the new template up.
Okay.
So for you guys, if you don't want to add the number, that's fine. I'm not holding anybody for that.
Okay.
This is the easiest way you can create this statement. You have to pull your net revenue, right?
Yes.
So you go to your adjusted trial balance. If you copy this line,
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Krabs. I think Patrick will only let me ride him.
Oh, nonsense.
oh, it's not going to come right because it's an extra space. So what I've told people to do is you can copy your information directly from your adjusted trial balance. So whatever your revenue amount was, say it was 80,000. I don't, this is just a sample, but
Okay.
you copy paste, and then you paste your value here. It's going to automatically start calculating what your net income is. So from your adjusted trial balance, you're going to take your revenue account and all of your expenses. So you would copy all the expenses into your income statement. You may need to add a couple of lines in here because the version you have doesn't have all the lines. When you do the insert, it's going to put crazy zeros. You just delete those out. And then that'll give you enough space for you just to copy and paste your expense accounts in here. And you'll do the same thing, except for this time, you would copy the balances of your. Don't worry about that. That's just a no-liner. But then you would copy all of your amounts right here. And as you copy them in, you'll see it slowly add your expenses and subtract them from your net income. So as you put your numbers in here, they're going to automatically sum to right here.
Okay.
And then they'll automatically subtract your expenses from your revenue, and that would be your net income or loss, depending upon. If it's a negative, it's a loss. If it's a positive,
Go watch TV.
then it will be a positive number. Now, once we finish this, our retained earnings statement uses our net income and any dividends that we may have. So once you know what your net income value here, you can copy and paste this amount here. So our net income on this particular example was 1710. I would push this right here and I would paste values. Now I have my net income, and as you can see, it is already doing the calculations for me.
Okay.
The only difference we have to do here is for our dividends is you have to put it in as a negative number because the formula will add it back in instead of subtracting it on your spreadsheet. So
Okay.
you put it in as a negative number, it's going to automatically calculate what your retained earnings is. So the big thing to take from here, if you notice, this has the net income balance and the dividend balance to make our retained earning balance. This is important because when you get to your balance sheet, again, you can copy the information from your adjusted trial balance. So all of your assets will go at the top here.
Okay.
All of your liabilities will go here. And as you can see, we're going to have to insert lines again because it doesn't fit. And it's fine if you insert the lines so that you can have them all in there. Again, get rid of the crazy numbers in there. The same way with our assets, it's not all going to fit. I did request this be updated, but I don't know when they're going to get it done. And the same way with our stockholders equity. I just put a bunch of lines in there because what I want to make sure is when I copy and paste my accounts in, they fit.
Okay.
And you're going to do the same exact thing like we did for our income statement. We went to our adjusted trial balance, copy the account, and copy their amounts right into your balance sheet. It's going to automatically add them up. So whatever you put here is going to automatically start summing.
Okay.
The only thing I want people to be aware of is accumulated depreciation is called what is known as a contra account. So that is the opposite balance of our regular. Oh, I only got 10 minutes on this one. So I'm going to rush through the rest because this is going to close. And if you want to go over unit 2, we'll do that
Okay.
later. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So once you get this and you're good with it, we'll get back together again and we'll go over the unit 2.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll do the same things with our liabilities, copy and paste them in. The difference is when we get to our stockholder equity account, we're not going to include the dividends. We're
Okay.
only going to pull the retained earnings and common stock, and then you'll pull this balance for your retained earnings
Okay.
and put that on your balance sheet.
All right.
Then once we finish this and our everything balances, you'll move on to your closing entries.
Mm-hmm.
And the closing entries are easy. It's just like posting a regular journal entry. There's a document in the area called the closing process. And this tells you what type of accounts should be closed and which ones should be open. So in this case, when we do our closing entries, we are closing all of our temporary accounts and leaving our permanent accounts open. So that means we're going to close our revenue, our expenses, and our dividends. We're not using the income summary. We're closing everything into retained earnings because this crazy entry drives me crazy and it's unnecessary.
Okay.
So for us, when you close your expenses, you're going to use the retained earnings account. So your revenue, you'll credit whatever your revenue is and debit retained earnings. You'll do the same thing with all of your expenses, and you'll do the same thing with your dividends. So
Okay.
once you do those 3 closing entries, you're going to post those back to your general journal. So of course, we got to go back to the general ledger and post all of those account entries to our general ledger.
Okay.
Know this is right when you go to do your last trial balance, and the only thing you have to that has it balances is going to be your um, balance sheet accounts. Expense accounts are temporary accounts. So revenues and expenses, those are temporary accounts. Our dividends are also temporary accounts because we reset them to start our new cycle. So
Okay.
that's why they're called temporary accounts. Our assets and our liabilities, we keep those because that lets us know what we really owe or what we have as value in our company.
Okay.
So again, we're posting all of our chart numbers in here. We're not going to use them all. So you know when you get to your revenue, ooh, I ain't put enough lines. Sorry about that. But if you were to copy and paste all that in here and you get to, all right, if you have any amounts in your revenues or your expense accounts, then you know something is wrong and you have to go back and look at it. So when you're preparing your last post-closing trial balance, come on.
No credit account, no credit checks, no hidden fees. My credit score went up about 150 points.
Have values from here down, you know something's wrong. So we shouldn't have anything in these accounts at all. So this should be nothing down here. You shouldn't have anything here because we closed our dividends into our retained earnings.
Okay.
Okay. So all of this from 303 down, you should have zeros. Everything going up, you should have numbers in, either debits or credits.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope this was a lot better for you to understand. You have any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so let's work on this and see how far we can get. If you need me, I'll be available again because we're going to brunch around 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
and then we can move on to unit 2 if you want me to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, And by the way, your daughter is not that loud. My grandkids and my children would have been drowned us out a long time ago. So
Thank you.
never have a problem. I'm a mom of 6 and I got 3 grandchildren. Kid noise never bothers me. I
Okay.
know what it's like. I had to go to school with my kids while my husband was in the military by myself. So I know. So please don't ever think they're a hindrance. It doesn't bother me.
Yes, ma'am.
Many of your classmates have shown up with their kids on the screen and we having conversations. So none of that bothers me. I'm a true grandmommy through and through.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'll work with you guys as much as I can to make sure you pass. So please don't give up and work, just work with me. And I know we can get this done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for showing up. And I hope this helped.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.